I'm good at, but there's a lot of stuff I got to get better at if I'm ever going to make it in this business. And I still got, in my mind, I still see a lot of areas I've got to get better at. I still see a lot of areas I've got to grow at personally. That's good because it means you're on a plan. When you have a plan, you think about that stuff. When you have a plan, you have goals each and every day that you're trying to reach of how can I be better? How can I better myself? And when you have a plan, you engage in that consistent action. And that's, in my mind, that's what makes you better each and every day.
Yeah, so the next 7, and the first 2 are the 2 that we're going to hold on, Coach Chartrand. We're having some technical difficulties here. Let me get this going here. I think we should be good here now. Yeah. So the next 7 is number 3, find your niche. Number 4, surround yourself with people with quality leaders, such as coaches, trainers, teachers, etc. Number 5, outwork your competition. Number 6, be open-minded in your development. Don't think that your development or the development that your moms or pops has for you is going to be the end-all, be-all. Be open-minded in your development. Number 7, find select programs and AAU programs that serve your needs. Number 8, get started with ACT, SAT prep and testing early because there's no limit on how much you can take those tests. Number 9, get internet questionnaires filled out early. And number 10, build as many relationships as possible. Those are the 10 things that I came up with for a small town athlete with big city dreams. And so the 2 that we'll focus on tonight are living outside your bubble and developing a plan. And so as I ask you questions and you answer your questions, kind of try to be as informative as possible in terms of how important it was for you to not stay stuck in your bubble and to do what you've been able to accomplish without a plan. And so we'll start with tell us a little bit about your high school days and coming out of high school. What was your goal?
So coming out of high school, I went to Bishop Fenwick High School and played there for basically all my time. But, I'll be honest with you, I took a step on the court my freshman year of high school there, and I learned pretty quickly I'm not the fastest kid on the team. I wasn't the strongest kid, didn't have the most athleticism, and, I wasn't a good enough shooter to where I could see myself being anything but a role player. So I had a really good freshman coach in Stephen Gallagher, and he really did a great job that year teaching me the fundamentals of the game, how to effectively be a role player, and what hard work is. I think a lot of people have this idea that hard work is, based off immediate results, or it's something that, something that's just kind of come to you. Hard work, for me, what Coach Gallagher taught me is not necessarily the guy that's scoring 30 points a night. Hard work can be every day what you do. How do you conduct yourself before you step into the gym? How do you conduct yourself before you step into the weight room? He taught me a lot, man. And more importantly, I think he taught me what eventually led me to getting into coaching. He said, there's more than one way you can impact a team. You ain't got to be the scorer. You can be a rebounder. You can be an energy guy. And that came true, really, that tested me, I should say, my sophomore year. My sophomore year, I was cut. We had a really good freshman class come in. And as a sophomore, our head coach had made it clear to all of us that, nobody's position was safe. And he ended up cutting me. And I was hurt by it because I had worked hard, man. I can honestly vouch there were varsity starters that weren't in the weight room as much as I was, that didn't go to the conditioning sessions as much as I did over the summer. And, you know, for me, I was just like, I was hurt. My mom and dad, my family were hurt for me. But, you know, this was a test the way I saw it. And I said, okay, if I'm going to embrace this role of what's my role within this program, I'm going to live up to it. I'm not going to let this deter my actions. I'm going to continue to pursue this. So I went. We got cut. I got cut on a Saturday. On Monday, next week of school, I went into our head coach's office, and I asked him, I begged him, I was like, let me be a manager. Let me help out. I promise you, you won't hear me complain. You won't hear me any of that. Let me help out. I want to show you that I want to be a part of this program. And it completely changed me. Being a manager that year and having to sit and watch the game from a whole other perspective, and truly being a servant to the game and serving our players and whatever it was. I mean, I tried to take every job as serious as I could, but it changed my perspective on things. It made me appreciate every little thing that I was given, because, you know, I had to work for it. I wasn't just awarded a starting position because I had mom and dad who were big boosters to this little private school and put my name on varsity. I had to earn it. And so by my junior year came around, again, I was working. I always had the mindset that I said, this isn't what I want to do, you know, for my next 2 years. I want to play. And so I came back out for the team my junior season. I made it, and I continued to work my way up to where halfway through the season, I'll never forget when my high school coach, what he did was, we only had, by the time I was a junior, we only had 3 kids in my class playing for our school basketball team. And he moved 2 of those guys up to varsity to practice with them, and he moved me to practice with some other of our sophomores to practice with the freshman team. So we'd only have 2 practice groups instead of 3. And I practiced with that freshman team, and while many kids I think would have seen that as a demotion, again, I was just happy to be out there, just to be playing. You know, I didn't take that as a smack in the face at all. So I practiced with the freshmen. I made it my goal every day to get them better. And I'll never forget, midway through the season, one day, one of the varsity players gets hurt. And so one of the assistants comes running in and says, we need an extra guy. And I was already dressed for practice. For that evening, we were supposed to practice after. So I was already dressed, though. So I said, bet. So I ran out, sprinted out before practice with the varsity team. I didn't do anything too special. Got a couple rebounds, but Pat Krecky comes in after I practiced with the varsity, and then I turn around and do another 2-hour practice after that. And I'm showering, cleaning up the locker room. He comes in and he says, hey, from now on, you're going to be practicing with the varsity team.
Wow.
And then the next day, he tells me, he pulls me into his classroom where he was teaching, and he gave me a varsity uniform. And for any other kid, you know, that varsity uniform may have just been something, you know, okay, great, thanks. When he gave me that varsity uniform, I almost cried.
Right.
Because, you know, for me, that's what I've been working for. That's what I wanted. And like I said, to me, I'd earned it. I'd earned that. Now, I finished up my junior year, didn't play a whole lot. I did score my first varsity basket against Elder my junior year, which was really neat. And then turned around. We had a great team my senior year. I played my senior year. And again, my goal was to just make our guys better, make the guys that were starting, that were getting the minutes better. So I didn't play a whole lot my senior year. But again, to me, it was just, I love being out there. I love being a part of the game. And so our senior year, it came to an end in the district semifinals against Dayton Stivers at University of Dayton Arena. And as soon as that buzzer went off and I took off my high school jersey for the last time, I remember looking at it and I remember saying, you know, this isn't this journey of basketball. It can't be on. Like, I can't walk away from this. Not like this. And so I got to, I was already accepted into the University of Kentucky. That was my dream school growing up. Big Kentucky basketball fan. Big Wildcats fan growing up. But I went to UCAM my freshman year, and I was going to try to work as a student manager there, and it just didn't work out, man. And that's kind of where I got the idea of going to Morehead State. And that's how basically I ended up at Morehead State. Was after my freshman year at Kentucky, I didn't see myself getting a student manager position with Kentucky men's basketball. I just didn't see it happening. There's a lot of other guys that want that same position. And even when you get on staff there with them, I mean, you really got to put in a lot of work. You're one of 15 guys. And I'm just like, man, if I ever have a dream of maybe coaching this thing someday, I want to be maybe at a small school where I can do a little bit more than just your typical manager work. Obviously, I knew that was going to come with the job regardless. But that's kind of what got me interested in going to Moorhead there.
Wow.
So, but yeah, that's kind of wrapped up my high school and how I got to Kentucky and what eventually led me to going to Moorhead as a manager.
That's a great story, man, especially for a lot of kids who can't, like, something that I found out, like, in our society today, there's a lot of kids who can't put their dream or they can't compartmentalize the difference between what's attainable and what's not, and that's what leads me to my next question. Knowing that you didn't come from a big high school and knowing that you didn't play, your high school wasn't a small school, but knowing that it wasn't the biggest of schools and knowing that you didn't play a lot as throughout your 4 years, and knowing you had been cut, knowing you had to come back, and knowing you had to work with the freshman team, and knowing that you made the varsity team and still didn't play an integral game part of the program, but were still a big part of the program. At what point did you feel like that your dream of potentially getting into coaching was attainable and that you knew you had to lay out the foundation, put down the foundation and lay out the groundwork for how you were going to get there?
So that kind of started when I got to Moorhead. I showed up to Moorhead kind of on a dime, really. After I finished my freshman year at Kentucky, I was working summer camps for Kentucky because the way to be a manager at Kentucky, and it's not just to be a manager, but I think a great opportunity to always connect and network for a lot of these young coaches, aspiring managers, aspiring graduate assistants, is to work summer camps, and Kentucky runs some of the biggest in the country. And so I was at UK working their summer camps, getting ready to be a sophomore in college, and I'm, talking with other managers at UK, asking them kind of what they do, just kind of getting an idea. And the one connection I really felt like I had at the University of Kentucky was Coach Preston Spradlin when he was there as the director of ops.
The Dobo,
yeah, he was the Dobo there, and he kind of just I basically went to him. I found out that he was taking an assistant job at Moorhead State, and I asked him, I was like, hey, man, I know you're busy. Can I talk to you after camp? So we finished camp, and I kind of begged to him. I'm like, man, I want to get in this business, man. I want to coach. I want to get into basketball, and I want to work my way up this ladder. I don't know if there's anything that you any connections, anybody that's looking for a manager, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So he looks at me and he kind of smiles. He's like, well, he's like, what would you say to Moorhead State? And so immediately I jumped all over. I was like, yeah, like if that's what it takes, yes. If you can get me in, yes. And so I think a week went by and he said, you're in. I remember I got the text. He said, you're in. When can you start? And so they had that year they had a trip to the Bahamas. So they had summer workouts going on. So I show up in July and just transferred and everything. So of course my mom thought I was crazy. I'm leaving the University of Kentucky to go to Moorhead State. She obviously had some concerns about that, but I told her this is my dream. Let me chase it, okay? And then if it don't work out, then I can live with that. But I don't want to pass up this opportunity. And so I go to Moorhead that summer. I start working for them, and we were doing 2-a-days, you name it. It was live, eat, and breathe basketball as they were preparing to go to the Bahamas for this little tour that they were doing. So do that, and man, I just being around basketball, being around the office every day, seeing what the staff has to do on a daily basis. Within 2 weeks, I felt like I had a really good grip on what I need to do every single day as a manager. And I wanted to make it clear to them. I would wake up, if we had practice at 9, I would have laundry done by 6 a.m. I'd have practice set up by 7 a.m. Like, I wanted to make it well known that I could handle whatever day-to-day manager responsibilities you give me. You know, I wanted to learn, how do you guys do video? How do you clip up film? How do you, whatever it is, the operation side of things, the coaching side of things. And I found myself just, not necessarily overwhelmed, but like infatuated with the world of college basketball.
The process.
Exactly.
I talk a lot on this show about the process and how the people that fall in love with the process are the people, like, you can love something and you can want to be very good at something, but if you don't love the process of getting the end result, then you're not going to get the end result. It's always going to be the guy that loves the process, you know? And so that's what's your degree in your undergrad and your master's?
I got my undergrad in strategic communications, and I got my master's in communications as well.
Okay. What will some of your job responsibilities do at Tusculum for Coach Burton? Coach Burton works his butt off too, like you do. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
he is a recruiting machine. He's out there. He's networking. He's talking to people. Like, JT goes hard, you know. And I never really got a chance to know him the way that I wanted to know him, based on the fact that he goes so hard. You know what I mean? Like, he goes like so hard. And so, what are some of your job responsibilities there with him?
Coach Burton kind of introduced me to a whole new way of working. The one thing that I kind of got, spoiled at working at Moorhead was, even though it's a mid-major Division I school, it is a mid-major Division I school. There is some resources there. There's some money there. And you have a travel budget of this amount. You have a recruiting budget of this amount. At Tusculum, where we're at right now, you don't have that. We don't have that big travel budget. We don't have that big recruiting budget. So you got to get the job done, but with less resources. So, and like you said, Coach Burton's a relentless worker. And when you talk about recruiting, he's made it very clear to myself in terms of, if you want to keep moving up in this business, man, you got to be able to recruit. And I think with him, he is the definition of a relentless recruit. He'll stay up till 3 a.m. Talking with kids. He'll do whatever it takes, and he finds really talented kids. And he's had success everywhere he's been at. And even in our 2 years at Tusculum, we've had great success in turning that program around, and we look to continue to build that going forward. With my responsibilities, I kind of had to oversee a lot this year. I had to take part in initiating fundraising stuff, which was something I never had to do at Moorhead because we never needed to fundraise. Well, at our school we do. It's just part of it. A lot of Division II schools have to do it as well. So we had to fundraise. So I was in charge of our fundraising efforts, and whether that was taking a team up to work a fundraiser in Knoxville or Bristol or wherever, I had to coordinate all of that. I coordinate a lot of he gave me scouts. So we ended up with us, we had 2 assistants. We had myself and another assistant. And between us two, we had to do scouts for all 26, 28 games we had. And so, when you have that, and I was in charge of all of our video work. I was in charge of a lot of our player development. I led all of our individual workouts. And just the day-to-day operation stuff. I oversaw all of our travel stuff, including, booking hotels, vans with our team travel vans, making sure that we were taken care of in terms of meals on the road. And, I have a good staff that I work with. We have a young staff, but, everybody from Coach Holt to Coach Christian Sisto, and now with us because Coach Brooks Harrison, who was a manager with me at Moorhead, who hopped on halfway through our season this year. They've all helped me out with certain bits and pieces of my large responsibilities list, but I'm in charge of all of our program graphics that we do. Anything we put out, a video, a graphic, whatever it may be. I create all of those. And at the end of the day, I try to oversee all of our branding. Anything that we put out that we send to a kid for recruiting, I create. And so I oversaw a lot of stuff this year, but I think of the biggest of those responsibilities was probably scouting, player development, and recruiting. That I really got hands-on experience in my first year there as a volunteer this year with them. I learned a lot about player development, and Coach Burton, the one thing he was really what I say is different is he doesn't try to control you. He expects big things of you. If you're going to lead a workout, you better do it right. You better put effort and energy into it. But he lets you completely run it, and he wants you to have confidence in what you're doing. And I think of the biggest things of my responsibilities, I think my confidence has grown immensely working for him in just 1 year. And, I still got a lot to get better at. Him and I both know that. But nonetheless, to continue to work with them, I'm sure my responsibilities will increase this year, whether it's adding, and of course we're always on top of academics and our guys and making sure they're doing what they need to be doing in the classroom. But I'm sure my responsibilities will continue to grow with him. But as they continue to grow, I'll continue to learn and hopefully continue to be able to get outside that comfort zone and continue to do more and just kind of go from there. But I had a lot of responsibilities in year one for a volunteer, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. I've grown a lot.
The kid from Miamisburg, Ohio, that got cut his sophomore year, is making a push toward the college coaching world. Something I've noticed a lot is former players. More and more former players are getting into the world of coaching. And with that being said, is it hard for a GA? Is it hard for guys to get grad assistant jobs, out there with all the guys that are done playing and now want to get their masters and want, like for a guy like you, you came to college as a college student, you wanted to get on the bench, as program manager, whatever it was going to take. And then you try to get this graduate assistant job, and a kid takes the GA job that was a D2 All-American, and now he's in a D1 program as a grad assistant and working on his master's, and you don't have a lot of credentials, per se, and not just you, someone in your situation. How do you fight for that? How do you justify yourself for those positions?
For me, I looked at it as, is it hard? Yeah, it's extremely hard. And I think it's hard across the board. I think it's easier maybe for guys who were former players to step outside and land a graduate assistant position. I think it's easier for them. But nonetheless, getting a GA position is hard for anybody. Because a lot of programs are limited, and it's not a lot. I mean, you got to make a sacrifice. For me, it's not like I had a total package at Morehead State, and you can be at Morehead State, you can be at Kentucky. Being a GA, you don't get paid a lot. You get, a stipend for anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000. Some programs are able to cover your master's degree, with a scholarship pool. Some are able to do part. And at the end of the day, you still got to provide yourself a place to live and a place to eat, and throughout the week. Now, the one thing that I'll say at Morehead was Coach Spradlin took extremely good care of me in terms of my GA package. And I think part of that was just because of the value that I brought. What I did was, when I was a manager, I said, okay, what's going to make me better? What's going to make me more hireable as a GA than a former player? So obviously, maybe I don't have the body and to do all the player development stuff that a former pro would have or a former college player would have. But what I decided to get good at is video editing, graphic design, and that's kind of where I raised the standard, and then to just knock all the operation stuff out of the park. And again, it kind of goes back to the very first principle that I learned in high school with there's more than one way you can help your program. Well, if player development wasn't going to be my strong suit, or if it wasn't going to be like my ultimate go-to, it's not that I couldn't work on that stuff, but I'm like, okay, well, what's that area what are areas I can grow at that will make me to them, that will make me say, we've got to give Justin a GA position.
That's
so
interesting.
I wanted to master
you say that.
my guy every day. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because it comes back to the 10 ways of propelling yourself in a competitive athletic world. Number 3, find your niche. It's find your niche, and that's the number 3 thing. Something that I think myself and a lot of my listeners are probably interested in, how is the COVID-19 hurting college coaches in terms of recruiting with no AAU this spring?
I definitely think it's hurting. It's hurting recruiting from a number of different perspectives. I think it hurts the kids because kids that probably had a chance of maybe going, to certain schools, those certain schools all of a sudden didn't get to bring that kid on campus. With tournaments getting canceled, like junior college kids, I really think are feeling that effect because they're not being seen by, other coaches at the national level, when it's the tournament level, and college coaches that aren't playing in March are able to go out and see them. It's definitely doing a number on the recruiting perspective from a lot of different schools. It's been hard to adjust to this whole situation. But we got to make it work. So the one thing that at least I know as a staff that we've done is it's forced us to get creative as coaches. And, if you are recruiting a kid, what are some different methods that you can recruit? What are some different ways you can brand your program and show off your campus if you're not able to bring a kid to campus? So it's kind of forced us to get outside the box a little bit. But I see some good in that. I think it's helped coaches at all levels, JUCO, D2, D1, and AIA grow. But I also think that it's definitely it's obviously done a lot more harm, though, I think, than good, because I do think there's a lot of really good players out there, Jason, that aren't getting the looks that they deserve or the love that they deserve. And I really hate it. From the standpoint for the young coaches out there that, are getting done with their GA position or getting done with a manager position, or they're looking for a GA position, or they're looking for their first gig as a video coordinator or assistant spot, wherever. And with all this COVID stuff going on, the job market's going to be real down. And those are the people I feel for. But at the same time, I'm a big believer in make it happen. When I came out, what a lot of people I think don't know is, I spent a year at Tusculum as a volunteer assistant. I went down there as soon as I got done with my master's program at Morehead State as a volunteer assistant, and worked this past whole season there as a volunteer assistant, meaning I didn't earn a dime for what I do. And, now Coach Burton takes great care of me. I never have to worry about where I sleep or where I eat. But at the end of the day, a lot of people who want to get into coaching, you can't just look at, how much money do I get to do it and all this. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I think there's going to be a lot of young coaches, though, that are going to be in that situation coming up here when their graduate assistantships are done in May and they're looking for their first gig. So I think it's going to force a lot of coaches out there to get creative with whether they need to find a job or get a recruit or whatever it may be. But I definitely think it's done a number in some good ways, but in more so some bad ways than anything.
Last question, Coach. If you had a message for the small town athlete with big city dreams, what would your message be? A kid that's from rural America that aspires to play or coach at UC, UK, Ohio State, whatever the UD, whatever the situation is, the kid from a small town with a big city dream, what do you have to say to them?
my message to them would be, it's understand that this game of basketball, I think it comes full circle when you stop making the dream all about you. Mm-hmm. I think your dreams, and when you go to that level, it's got to be bigger than you. I do what I do. Don't get me wrong. I do what I do because I love it. But the reason why I love coaching is not for myself, is because it gives me the chance to impact young people each and every year.
To empower
so for those young kids that are out of these small towns that want to play at the Daytons or at the Dukes, the UNCs, the Kentuckys, your decision and what you do, understand that everything you do is not about you. It's so much bigger than basketball, and it's so much bigger than you. There's so many people that have invested in you. So when you start thinking about your habits and you start thinking about how you're going to approach each and every day, don't approach it with the mindset of it's on your time, or it's how you want to do it, or it's what you're comfortable with. Nah, it's not about you. It's about so much more than just you. And so that would be my message to these young kids, is that it's so much bigger than you. It's so much bigger than everything that's about you. Because if every decision you make is about you, then eventually you're going to hit a point, you're going to hit a wall in life where you're going to look back and say, where'd I go wrong? Because you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy with whatever. If every decision you make is about you, you'll never be happy with whatever path you're on. And that's why I say, for coaching, for me, my dream, I knew I wanted to be a coach. I knew I wanted to be a college coach, and I continue to chase it, and I'll continue to chase it until God tells me otherwise. But my decision to coach, it wasn't based about me. I didn't make the decision because I wanted to make money, or I wanted the fame, or I wanted that coaching title. I made it because I want kids to help kids beyond their 4 years of college. You got kids going to look at the transfer portal these days, Jason. I mean, we're going to have over 1,000 kids floating around in the transfer portal.
It's full.
New homes.
But a lot of that, though,
unreal.
A lot of that, Coach, has to do with kids who, the majority of those kids, and it all goes back to what you just said, the majority of those kids are going in that transfer portal because they haven't figured out that it's not about them.
Exactly.
And so, a lot of these kids go to these schools with an idea or a mindset of what the experience is going to be like. And then when you get on campus and you realize that there's 15 guys who are all the best player on their team in high school. And what a lot of people don't understand is most college basketball programs got 20 kids running around campus. They got 15 or 16 they're dressing, and they got 5 or 6 that are, nobody really deals with Prop 48s anymore. If you can't make the grades in high school, we don't want you really. But, I mean, like red shirts and guys who aren't playing, there's 15, 18, 20 guys running around campus that all have a sweatsuit that says, Morehead State basketball, whatever the situation is. And the reality is most of those guys were the best player on their team in high school. And a lot of those guys can't handle the fact that they're not going to because the one thing that happens, and you said you saw this when you were a freshman in high school, a lot of guys don't see it until they're freshmen in college. When you get to a certain point and you look in the tunnel vision and you see what's ahead of you, and you see what's 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, 48 months down the road, and you don't ever see yourself being the creme de la creme, so to speak, or at the top of the mountain, a lot of times for a lot of guys, that means I got to go, And so as coaches, guys like you and I, we have to do a better job at helping kids. And I think that this is something that you're probably really good at. And it's something that I've got to be, I'm trying to learn to be better at. But 85% of parents are not going to be realistic with their kids. As coaches, we have to be real with them. We have to let them know that, like, it's not going to be probably what you expect it to be. But don't quit. Make it what you can. It may not be what you want, but make it what you can. and that's what you've done with your situation at Moorhead. That's what you've done with your situation at Tusculum. And that's why you continue to have success and continue to climb the ladder, because when you go to these places, it's never what you wanted it to be, but you make it what you can. And ultimately, if you take enough situations that you can't have that you want, but make them the best that you can, eventually you'll have what you want. And so that's what you're doing right now, Coach. Last thing I always give everybody a chance to do before we sign off, man, I'm going to give you a chance to shout out anybody that, I know you'd like to thank Coach Burton for the opportunity, but other than that, what you got, man?
No, man, first off, Jason, I want to thank yourself for having me on. This was a true pleasure to come out and kind of share my story a little bit and share hopefully a positive message for anybody that was listening in. But I do want to give a shout out, man. I wouldn't be where I'm at if it weren't for a lot of coaches who believed in me. So from Stephen Gallagher to Ross Chris to Don Donaher to Pat and Jill Crecky, my high school coaching staff, I can't thank those guys enough, because by them, they pushed me every day. They held me to a standard, and because of them, they made me feel like I could take on this thing called life. And that goes right into Coach Preston Spradlin at Moorhead State and Coach Sean Woods for giving me my first crack and my first opportunity. And they didn't shy away from giving me any work to do. And they made me so much better because of it. They were true mentors to me. And that goes right into of course, Coach Burton. In terms of what I've learned about coaching and the business and helping these kids, I think Coach Burton has taught me the way to do it in terms of helping me find the right reasons to be in the business. Coach Burton, I think he's a great coach. He's won a lot of ball games. But Jason, I think you and I can both attest that he's an even better person than he is coach. And I think being around him every day, seeing how he interacts with people and his day-to-day values that he consistently upholds is a true motivation for any young coach to work for and to work with. And so I want to thank my mom and my dad and for everything that they've done to support me. And I could be here all day if I went on to talk about my family and my friends. But from everybody from Bishop Fenwick High School to the University of Kentucky to Moorhead State and to now Tusculum and who've been following my career, I can't say thank you enough for everything that you guys have done and invested into me. And your support is appreciated more than I think I can ever describe in words. But to everybody out there listening in, just continue to hope you get some positivity. I hope you all stay safe and stay healthy during this tough time that our country's in. And, take this time, though, to lean on somebody and pick somebody else up, because, again, it's not always just about you. Reach out. It'll make you feel better. It'll make them feel better. Take some time and reach out to somebody you maybe haven't talked to in a while, or maybe somebody that could just use an uplifting message and just let them know that you care about them and that you appreciate them.
Coach Chartrand, guys, I want you to understand, he just thanked a whole bunch of people from his high school that cut him when he was in the 10th grade, right? Because it's bigger than basketball, okay? And he realizes that. And for any young listeners, I hope that you understand that although sports are a lot, don't let them define you. I've been guilty of that in my life. Don't let them define you, and use them as what they're for, a tool to be a better person, a better leader, a better father, a better husband, a better friend. It all starts with being a better teammate. And so you can be all those things that you wish to be. Use sports as a tool to continue to live and grow. Coach Chartrand, thanks for joining us, man. You're my guy. It was my pleasure to meet you a couple years ago, man. And, I know if I ever need anything, man, I can reach out to you and you do the same, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you again, Jason, for everything, man.
All right, see you, Coach. Coach Justin Chartrand from Tusculum University. He's an assistant down with Coach J.T. Burton in Tennessee. He worked his first year at Tusculum as a volunteer assistant and has now made the payroll because of all the hard work and effort and energy that he put in. He's from a town of less than 25,000, Miamisburg, Ohio. Title of this week's series, Small Town Sports, Big City Dreams, 10 Ways to Separate Yourself in a Competitive World of Athletics. Thank everybody for tuning in. Gonna jam out the Piccolo Pete God's Art. Tune in tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Small Town Sports, Big City Dreams, 10 Ways to Separate Yourself in a Competitive World of Athletics. I'm out.